And we're back. Happy Wednesday morning. I'm Alek Dincoff, professional voice talent, speaking with Steve Todd, creator, founder, the mastermind behind Open Sourced Workplace. How are you doing, Steve?
I'm doing well, Alec, and I'm glad you put all that together. It seemed like a struggle for you to get out there, but I'm doing good, but thank you for asking.
Well, as you know, we record these on a Monday, so I'm having a little case of the Mondays, but we're going to get through it. So let's dive right in. A while ago, I read Why Productivity Suffers in a World of Technology. It's out on our podcast for Open Sourced Workplace. We'll put a description down below. It mentions a lot of red tape and how it slows businesses down. It suggests companies trust their employees to do their jobs. What are your feelings about red tape in the workplace?
No, it's a very interesting question to me, right? Obviously, given the company I work for, the regulation and processes around everything we do, a lot of organizations, depending on the maturity levels, will have something similar, and reasons why what may be perceived as red tape is probably there for a very good reason. And I understand where the writer was coming from in what she was trying to portray, that fact that, with that red tape, it does limit and does inhibit people using what they think is the best tools, the best software, and the right technology for them to actually go and use to actually improve their job. And obviously the challenge and with organizations is, well, you can't have too many cooks in the kitchen, and too many pieces of software, too many technology actually does inhibit and does restrict. We touched on it last week, where different groups have different chat systems and so on and so forth. And that's where you have to be really careful. And also you have to protect the integrity of the legacy systems, because sometimes while you want to make advances, those advances may somehow in other ways be detrimental to the organization from a product you may deliver. So one of the things is like Microsoft, they progress every few years in what they're doing. But a lot of people build systems based on the old Microsoft architecture, and you have to sort of take that into consideration. So the red tape absolutely is an issue, but I think there's reasons often why that is in place, and I understand why there are frustrations. I myself at times do encounter those frustrations also.
Of course. And then there's the tail end where there's obviously what you mentioned, red tape for the reason to get business done the right way, or for specific processes to happen. Then there's the red tape that you really should have just trusted the employee. I once was in an office environment where a colleague of mine had to specifically write down what they were doing at what times throughout the day, because the manager wanted to get a better feel for their workday. They really gave it their all. They notch after notch of this 5-minute slot, this 20-minute slot. They really detailed their whole day, but then they asked for it the whole week. So then it became hours onto their workday, and upper management came in and said, no, don't do this. This is a waste of time. This is the dreaded red tape everyone speaks about.
Yeah, and in your example, and I try to avoid that sort of scenario in my answer, because you're absolutely right. That's not an organizational issue. It's the manager's issue. And that's not an organizational concern. Well, it is an organizational concern, because they're the ones that ultimately it impacts, but that's very, very, very different, right? And red tape often is seen as a misperception between the employee and the organization. What is that red tape? And often the point that you just made, those protocols are in place for a very specific reason. And again, we go back to what we talk about with GitHub. And the protocols they put in place, because they're remote working, there's a reason they do everything, right? And yes, you can see it as red tape, but even having those, the coffee breaks, the coffee, things that we're talking about, yeah, you can take and say that's red tape, but actually it's trying to promote a togetherness and a social interaction in the organization. So perception is often what red tape represents, but actually, the person who actually put it in place, the organization that puts it in place, actually has the good of the whole organization at mind, one assumes.
Well, very good point. That's a distinction that even in my example there you showed between human or manager and organization. So for anyone watching this that says, I've worked at a company that, well, be careful. It's not your manager or your boss's boss, and it's the company as a whole before you jump down the good old red tape bandwagon. Speaking of which, what are your feelings about employee trust?
Yeah, no, I'm a big believer in employees' trust. I think you have to empower, you have to give employees autonomy for them to, one, be truly motivated, to feel ownership and responsibility, and also allow them to then have the ability to almost make mistakes and sort of feel that pressure in a controlled way, right? And obviously that all comes with trust. Often we say, well, trust has to be earned. Well, actually, you've employed somebody, and if you've employed them, then you must actually trust them. And then you go from there. And then it's on at that point, it's up to the individual to sort of maintain that trust. And that's the relationship you have to form whenever two people are working together, because organizations is about two people interacting, obviously at a bigger scale, depending on the size of the organization. But that's really what it comes down to.
Yep, definitely give and take, or a two-way street, however you want to look at it. There's multiple people involved. But I totally agree. Employee trust is such a great topic. We could make an entire video on it. In fact, some of our videos here in the YouTube have touched on it. So if you want to keep seeing content like this, like, share, subscribe. But back to the idea in the workplace. Employee trust can get a little skewed when an employee starts focusing on maybe the team rather than getting their personal job done. In fact, this article covers individual versus team mentality in a workplace. Most companies focus on individual talent rather than the team. Everyone has a job to do, of course. But what are your thoughts when it comes to drawing line between helping the team out, helping the organization out, and getting the job done for yourself or for what you were supposed to be doing?
And I think the clear distinction has to be made between the various roles that somebody performs, right? There are roles where if you don't do what you're supposed to do, then the next person can't do what they're supposed to do, right? And in that situation, then it becomes one type of management style. Whenever you work and operate within a team environment where actually it's fluid and actually people do the work at different times and they all support each other in whatever that work is, does really sorry, my I got a call. Sorry, these things happen.
Mondays.
It put me off. There you go. So on teams, so teams, you have to I've kind of completely lost my train of thought now.
I'll back up. Team mentality versus individual mentality, and where do you draw the line between focusing on your job or the team? And you said there's certain roles that definitely, if you have time and allocation to help the team, great. But there are certain jobs or roles that you really have a job to do, and that helps the organization as a whole.
Yeah, no, thank you for getting me back on point. Yeah, so I mean, the environment that I operate in, the team that I like to operate in, is a team environment. It is a team where everybody acts as a team, everybody has the sort of core responsibilities, but then we're very fluid. We can move and help and assist each other. And if someone sees something that they want to do, they can put their hand up and volunteer to be part of something. Obviously, they still have their core functions to do, but actually that then becomes the team example. And the great benefit of that, and the article goes on to explain and compare what Apple did with their iOS software, what Microsoft did with their Microsoft Vista, I believe was the program that they compared, and actually how Apple were able to create this with a little over 600 people in 2 years, where Microsoft took 10,000 people over 5 years. One was a success, one wasn't a success. Now, whether you can directly attribute that to the success of the two products on how they actually build the systems, but if you look at the resources, the time and the actual cost, then one would say the Apple team environment that they created rather than the individual structure that Microsoft put in place. You could say which one was better. And again, it all depends on how you're creating those things, how you're creating products. Software is very different to how you create something, because again, one follows the other, but then everyone needs to talk to understand how those different components fit together. Again, it all comes down to the task, to the role and the responsibilities that the individual and the team have to perform.
Of course. Well, wisdom shared, and I appreciate it. Hopefully anyone watching can take a little gold dust away from this conversation. Steve's very smart, and he knows what he's talking about. But enough about the regular day-to-day. Let's talk about open sourced workplace. What's new, the goings on, the comings and goings of open sourced workplace?
Yeah, so sort of again, I always go about, the first thing I want to talk about is the co-working sites, because I just get fascinated by the co-working locations. So we're a little under 3,800 now. So it just seems like we're just gone up like this dramatically every week we talk, and it's fascinating. But we're at the point now where we're actually adding co-working locations that maybe have 5 or 6 locations, and it's amazing how different they are in all obscure places around the US. Little things, and you see so many different ways people are utilizing space, the space that they're offering, and it's fantastic. And actually, in my day job, I was actually trying to look for a co-working space in a certain location, and I tried the usual Google way, and I thought, hold on a minute, I've built this resource, why don't I just go to open source? And I did, and it was fascinating where I could put it in the zip code. It's another country. I put in the zip code, it looked, and I was able to identify the one that I was interested in. And then to the side, I saw 5 other options that were very close to where this is. And I went, this works. It's weird whenever you create something and then you actually go to use it and then it actually works for you. So I was really happy. And obviously, as I went through that process, there's always little things that I thought, oh, this could be better, that could be better. So I make my notes to update. But the co-working stuff, I'm absolutely loving that. I'm loving what the team are putting together and sort of producing there. Also really happy with how Google is picking up on the searches. Google content and Google search is by far beating the social interaction. So I'm posting lots of things on LinkedIn, Facebook. We've talked at length before about sort of the impact of posting on social media, how actually it doesn't drive traffic, the reasons why it doesn't drive traffic to your site. And I'm just saying now that Google's overtaken all social media content and driver to the site. So that's good. And also see a 30% uptick in Google week to week. So really happy with that sort of cadence. Now, when the numbers are small, 30% doesn't really make that much of a difference. But again, I as I said, the site went live sometime, middle of January, whatever it was. I don't expect the site to be really almost at its plateau until October, November of this year, and even then I think it'll go beyond that. But that's when I really fully expect to see the site hit the numbers that I have in my head that I think it will hit on a per page per month. And the page views are holding steady around that 12,000. So I actually have reached out to a advertising third party and to come have a look at the site, do an audit. And it's really interesting, the product that they offer. What they actually offer is you as an individual, they actually cater how ads are presented to you when you come to the site. So it's not necessarily one standard format for everybody who comes to the site, but how do you engage and how do you typically like your ads presented to you? What don't you like? And sort of based on the sites you've been to before. So really, really smart technology. It's tied in with Google. So Google obviously has the ability to track all that you're doing, and then that plays into that. So starting to get some of that information together now as well. So
very good.
That's where we are. That's the quick update for this week.
It's always so fun when someone in the business, doesn't matter the business, but when they use their own product and become a customer, a consumer, and they basically switch their shoes to see the real outcomes and the frustrations or the glee that's associated with doing business with the company. It's very nice to hear yourself saying, hey, I did this, it works, and I'm proud.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And it's amazing, the little journey. It's a bit like, if you go on Zillow and you find a house, you click on it, and all of a sudden the next house on the side come down, you're able to see the other alternatives. That's exactly how it works in open source. And I love the concept. I love how it works. And you just go down this little rabbit hole, and next thing you've looked at 10 different locations that are very viable options. And then you see the difference in the different options and the different, co-working providers are actually offering. It's really, really good.
Very good. Very good. Well, as a reminder, opensourcedworkplace.com, if you're looking for co-working locations, link in the description, check it out. And if you go, leave a great detailed review. Help others just like yourself. So Steve, the question, what's on the frontier for open sourced workplace? Where are we going now? Because you've been through the trenches. You've worked up to version 2.0. Are we thinking now? Obviously, you mentioned in a year or so, or October, November, you'll see how well Google's rating articles. But is there anything behind the scenes? Anything peeking through the curtains? Anything coming?
So I keep obviously a full detailed list of things that I want to improve. So as I go through and as I see things, as I hear feedback from other people, I take notes, I keep lists. There are ways that I want to change. I want to change the sign-up process. The sign-up process, I think, could be simplified. And I think I could then take more control in the back end and help people sign up. And that's something that I want to do. And obviously I have a pricing for all these different components. So I've got to manage my own budget. And at the moment, I'd rather spend the money on content to bring people to the site rather than actually going and changing the structure at the moment. So again, I keep that list. I have it going. The developers, they know what that list is. I have everything priced. And whenever that moment comes, then I will then start to go through and start doing the, maybe quarterly updates. But at the moment, I don't have anything planned. All my resources are going into the writing content, narrating content, and then putting animations. And I actually put up a new animation today, the book Bold, the Peter Diamandis and Steve Kotler book. Great book. It's probably my favorite book. It's one of the books that actually put me on my journey to create open source workplace. It's the book that actually scared the life out of me, in the sense that when I looked at what workplace is today and where technology is going, can the traditional ways we manage things, how will that change? How are people going to work in the future? How is technology going to impact that? How are we then designing workplace for that? And am I in a position to take advantage of those things, or am I something that's going to be, pushed away because of the technology? And so that sort of got me on this whole journey with open source workplace. So it's fascinating. And I will give you a preview. I did get a snippet of, I got a draft of the Leesman Zookeeper article, and it's brilliant. I loved it. I thought it's so good. It's so good, and I cannot wait. I skimmed so close to posting it today instead of Bold, but I went, no. I have a timetable that I'm on, but I'm super excited. That'll be posted on Monday next week. So this week, this video goes live on a Wednesday, so it'll be Monday, the following Monday that'll go. It's so good.
So a couple comments come to mind. First off, I didn't know Bold inspired you to go out and create a website, to find a bunch of people to help create content, to share what you're doing in your daily life with everyone out there for free. That's powerful. I had no idea. Bold.
So it's in essence, I mean, obviously people will look at open source today and go, well, that's not what Bold is. And they're absolutely right. Right. But in essence, one of the main theses behind the book Bold is, don't look at what something is today. What will it be in 5-10 years, right? And I look at open source, and I don't look at open source workplace and see what it is today. I see what it is in 2025. So whenever I see what I think it's going to be in 2025, what then can I create with that, understanding the amount of content that open source is going to have, the value that it's going to drive, and we're going to provide to end users and organizations, but also the service providers, so that they can actually enhance their offering and share what they're doing, and then be in a way rated for what they're doing and the services they're providing. Now, whenever you have everybody on a platform, then there are other things you can do way after that. And that's where my vision is on. So again, whenever I was thinking about, okay, what will open source workplace be in 2025? And, we always overestimate what we can do in the short time, underestimate what we can do in the long term. And what I expect open source to be in the long term blows people's mind. That's why I said, I'm probably on step 3 of 10 whenever I think about what an open source workplace will be in 2025.
That is so true. The overestimating now, underestimating long, because I think I've mentioned this to you. The quote is, nothing is more precise or more effective than a human with laser focused determination. And it's just talent it's intrigue, it's passion, all pushed into one to make something come true. And obviously you're working toward that. And I'm seeing it on the back end of everything just looking amazing. So I'm very excited for 2025. Who knows? Oh,
yeah. So no, it's gonna be fun. It's gonna be fun. It's gonna be a great journey. Yeah. So whenever I sort of thought about what all it was, I went and I got a price for what it would cost to build, and I went, well, I don't know, that's some money. So okay, we got to do this way, and the way we're doing it right now is by far the best way, because in essence, people buy into the spirit and the ethos of what open source workplace is. People get to know me as who I am as an individual, and they sort of see the spirit and the ethical stance that I have and take on things. So hopefully that sort of allows people to sort of the freedom and the trust to sort of buy into open source workplace.
Yeah, a real company, a real website trying to help people and give proper information to put it to good to some good use. So it's very good. And also, though, let's swing back to Zookeeper, how to be an effective one in the workplace. What a fun article. That, I know the animation isn't out yet, but by the time this video is out, it only leaves almost 5 or 6 days until the next Monday. Go check it out. If not, put it on your calendar. Come back to Open Source Workplace here on YouTube and see the video, because I read the article. I've narrated it. It's fun. It's neat. Yeah, there's some really great comparisons. I even saw myself as an animal in certain cases, and it's really fun.
Yeah. No, it's good. It's good.
All right. Well, Steve, thank you very much for joining me. Do you have any questions, comments, concerns before we go?
No, I'm good. Thank you again once again for your time. Thank you.
Likewise, it's a pleasure to be here. We'll see you every Wednesday morning here on Open Source Workplace on YouTube. Check the description, like, share, comment, send to your friends on social media. Thanks. We'll see you then.